The last midnight run. Above me is the great canopy of space, dotted by innumerable blazing stars clustered together in their all too familiar patterns. The wind is glacial cold, swirling around me, dragging dry rags and refuse along the cracked tarmac. A dog barks from behind a chain-link fence, cutting through the thick silence, and my heart leaps to my throat in shock. Hand to my heaving, bleeding chest, a quick nervous laugh bursts from my lips. It quickly fades away with the wind. The dog scratches at the fence lazily before curling up into a grey shadow with a wide, toothy yawn. One step quickly followed by another, I resume my jog with a sliver of reluctance. Ahead the amber glow of the streetlights blink into existence. Like a runway for joggers, they guide my way. Seething against their wavering yellow circles is the darkness. Like the stars, this isn't so much as a blanket, but a series of clusters, bundles and groups, sliding over one another in the silent orchestra of the night. I see that now, and it is beautiful. There are faces there, pale and open, rubbing and pulling at each other as they press against the edges of the darkness. I pay them no mind. Twisted into my ears are cheap, ill-fitting earbuds. They don't play music. Wire ends dangling at my hip. Instead, I hear every empty promise I made, every rash word made in the heat of the moment and regretted in the cold of the night. I feel myself running in rhythm to the memories. Trees curl up from the garden walls, tiny shards of starlight beaming through the rustling leaves. The empty eyes of windows watch me run, occasionally illuminated by a plethora of light bulbs. I see a man, fat and balding, slouched in an armchair with the airy glow of the television, casting sharp angles across his face. He's wearing a jersey 2 sizes too small, and as I turn the corner, he leaps from the chair with surprising speed. His paw-like hands clasped to his temples, his watery eyes wide and angry in disbelief. Even from this distance I hear the drunken slur in his voice, as he rants relentlessly at the referee. I stopped then, not because I was out of breath, never again, but the force compelled me to. I see the man fall to the floor, simply folding in on himself, one hand clutching at his chest, while the other flails around desperately for purchase. As he twists, his eyes alight on me and widen in fear. I wait another moment to see what happens next. There's something different playing on the TV now. Something is reaching out for him. I regret being so morbidly curious, shaking the distraction from my mind as I resume my jog. The fleeting image of the man being dragged disappears behind a red brick wall, chipped and scuffed with age and neglect. Greeting me at the end of the road is the livid red eye of the traffic light, impatiently waiting for the stray car to stall before it. Now that I'm away from nature's mufflers, the bleeps, ticks and hums of late-night traffic wash over me, coating my senses. Businessmen with bleary eyes cradle styrofoam cups of coffee in their grey cars, fingers flying over their car phones as they talk to the listening ear. Taxis lug their drunken passengers back to their worried families. Truckers loom over the rest like an almighty god, arms slung out the window with glowing stubs of cigarettes wedged between hairy fingers. Thrown into the mix is 1 or 2 police cruisers, the occupants leaning over their complicated dashboards, with eyes sharp with suspicion. In the back of one cruiser is a man in a blue jumper. He notices me, surprisingly. I nod at him, and after a nerve-shreddingly long moment, he nods back at me. The light descends into green, and he slides away from view. I quicken my pace. The floor rises from underneath me, and I falter momentarily as I realign myself to this new course. My runners slap crisply against the smooth concrete beneath, a steady ovation of applause accompanying every footfall. Across from me is a training field, haphazardly cut and currently occupied. With white light glaring down at them, men the size and shape of tanks weave around neon orange plastic cones. while the coach barks orders at them from the sidelines. A black, sleek sedan whizzes past and honks at him. Without turning around, he waves at the car in acknowledgement. I consider to stop and watch for a while, something to break the dull cycle I had fallen victim to. My legs, however, wouldn't allow any more rest, and so I jogged on. I veer off the footpath, down onto the uneven cobbles beside the canal. Lily pads and wet fronds choke the waters in slick green, and there's many a minute disturbance on the surface as fish or frogs shyly poke out and disappear under watchful eyes. Ahead the river walk cuts its way across, and I feel myself forced to jog down its route. I am being guided, not by my feet, but by something too old for a name. It's too late for any living soul to walk down this path. Even the faces in the darkness have turned away. I'm too focused on the flapping of my feet to notice a presence sidle up beside me, slowing down to match my speed. How long it was there I don't know, but eventually it ringed its bell impatiently. Conditioned to move away, I do so, not realizing how worthless that gesture would be in my current state, and not realizing that nothing normal should be able to see me anymore. The cyclist whips past me, one eye almost popping out of its socket as it sizes me up. I falter, afraid, and considering turning around and running away as fast as I could muster. The eye shrank back, and the cyclist turned his attention away from me, pressing hard on his pedals and finally disappearing around the corner, clearly not interested in leftovers. A tight ball has now lodged itself between my ribcage, and what equates as my breathing is shallow and rapid. I goad myself to go further, be better, but my body is quickly beginning to unravel. I stumble, once, twice, and then I stop, hands pressed firm against my knees. I pull in long gasps of cool night air, an unnecessary ritual too ingrained in my mind to be let go of. The taste is different than it is at day. In the morning it has the tendency to mist your mouth or nose, instead castling your hair into your eyes, or wrapping its freezing coils around your neck. Towards the afternoon it congeals into a hot, sticky syrup that pours sweat down your back, and transforms your legs into wobbling stacks of jelly. When evening approaches, it's almost as if it no longer exists. Maybe once or twice it brushes shyly against your cheek, but for the most part it's simply not there. When the stars peek out, and when the moon clambers up to its summit, that is when the air brings with it a terrifying, invigorating chill. For the night is when the air tastes sharp and tangy. It is also at night when the ghouls and ghosts that are concealed behind the darkness, always ready to leap out on unsuspecting joggers like myself. I straighten and wince as my spine pops back into place. I ask myself, should I keep going just for a little bit longer, or should I turn back and head towards my empty home? One foot points ahead and the other points back. In this pale moonlight, under the scrutiny of the stars, I weigh the options in my head. If I go on, something inside me will break. I'm reaching the end of my tether, and once it breaks, I'll be frail enough to be carried in a strong breeze, leaving only my voice in the wind. Up ahead, the darkness is thick and palpable, watching me hungrily. I was promised one last night to be who I used to be. The faces had no right to look at me like that, to make me feel at risk. Maybe they weren't aware of the arrangement, or maybe the other party weren't entirely honest with me. Further is the future, and it's full of dangers and risks. I could be nothing but a whisper, or I could be free. If I go back, there will be nothing waiting for me, save for a pot of cold pasta, green and mouldy, stuffed into the fridge. The lights will need to be switched on, and I will need to be exposed in all my vulnerability. The home phone is disconnected. Most of the chairs have never been sat on, and there's a thick film of dust over the carpet. Upstairs the rest of me lies rotting in bed. In life I rarely smile, but now it's all I ever do. If I put one foot in that house, I'll be relegated to looking through those withered eyes, waiting for someone to find me, waiting to be free. My mind has been set, and my feet both point in one direction. I jog on. Hey folks, thank you all for listening to today's story. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, I would love it if you could please subscribe and leave a comment telling me what you think. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a great night.